thanks for coming to this session. I'm Kathy Trogolo. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Fasility. We're out of Boston, and we are a small WebXR studio that's really connecting with the people who are making WebVR and WebAR. So while folks here at Samsung and at some of the other browser makers are working at the browser level and some of these core technologies, we're taking those and bringing that forward to people who want to be able to make this stuff. So I come from an education background. I'll just tell you a little bit about what my team does. We are focused on doing custom development, and as we do those projects and help people as we're partnering with them, we come up with new tools and we are learning more about mobile performance. We're really focused on performance across different devices, especially mobile. And as we work with people, we come up with tools and more content exploration types of tools, and authoring tools. So I'll show you a couple of those a little bit later. We also teach. So we've been spending a lot of time with the people who are creating. Sandra Persing was speaking yesterday about people who don't necessarily call themselves coders or developers, but they are tech creators. That's really a lot of the community that I've been working with and that my team has been working with. And just to give you a little perspective, this Howie Greene site was a 3D virtual WebVR gallery that we made for Howie Greene, who's a pop artist in Boston. We did this in late 2016, and early 2017 we released it. He has it embedded in his website. You just go into the iframe, you go right into the experience, and it's built really entirely using A-frame and JavaScript. So there's a lot you can do with A-frame, and we really try to push the boundaries with that. We focus on CSS, HTML, and JavaScript. So I want to talk a little bit about why WebXR is important and WebVR. It really does break the App Store barrier. We're big fans of Tony Parisi on my team, and what we found is that people have become so accustomed to having to go to the App Store, having to download another app. I don't know about you, but I have app fatigue. I don't want to have to put another app on my phone. I don't have the space for it. Please don't ask me to view your experience by saying I have to take up all this space on my device. We talked about progressive web apps yesterday. This is really where we're headed with what we're working on. And it's not just about something that is a product, though. There's a lot that people can just share, peer-to-peer sharing in these creation spaces that we're making. So that's a lot of what we are looking at, too. And it's really important because mass access is really going to be driving the maximum innovation. We're not going to get to the really high-quality WebXR experiences that we're looking for unless we have a lot of experimentation happening across the board. So as many of you know, you can already do WebXR in 3D websites today. One of the ways that I came to this from an educational perspective is that I had students back in 2014 who were looking to make 3D environments to show architectural drawings and concepts that they wanted to share in designing their own schools. So they were trying to use things like Minecraft. They were using other types of CAD programs, but they weren't really meeting the needs of the students. When I got together with my other teammates and co-founders, they'd been working in 3D and CSS and HTML for years and years. And so we realized that we had some things we could work on together, and we said, let's really try to move this forward once we realized that A-frame had been released. So this is pretty self-evident, actually. But I do want to talk a little bit about a couple of educational concepts that I think are really appropriate here. Everybody, I think, has had some kind of project that was the inspiration for why they got involved in these fields. There was something you wanted to do, you didn't have it there in front of you, you said, I need to make this. For me, it was back in 1997, I was getting married, it was not local, I had people coming in from all over, and the web was relatively new, so I said, well, I think I want to make a website for this. I learned HTML so that I could have a website for my friends and family so they could get to the wedding. Fast forward, and we can do this with the 3D immersive web too, where people can create personal projects, and that's going to drive them to learn more, to share more, and then to create more innovative strategies for everyone. Have any of you heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs? Yeah. bunch of you. So this is with my apologies to the psychology community, this is something that theoretically, you think about what do humans need in order to reach growth and self-actualization, where they're feeling, like things are fulfilled enough that they can move in new directions. So you have physiological needs, the sort of the raw materials of life: air, shelter, food, water, sleep for the jet-lagged folks. I'm sure you'd appreciate that. Safety and comfort, your environment, maybe it's employment or property, or that sense of sort of homeostasis in your physical world. Belonging, friendship, family, intimacy. Esteem, which is acknowledgement, confidence, and respect from your peer community. And when you have all those 4 things on the bottom of the pyramid, so those are considered deprivation needs or deficiency needs. If you don't have those things, you're searching for them, right, before you can reach that top self-actualization. So this, as I've been doing my work over the past year and a half in the community in Boston, I've seen that this maps actually to what I'm going to call a hierarchy of maker needs. So it really maps to the access to the raw materials for making, safety and comfort, that's the environment again. We'll talk a little bit more about these different areas. Belonging, esteem, there's an iterative sort of process between those. And then that brings you to growth and innovation at a personal level. But then you can also look at this at a community level. And when you have these 4 lower things in place, that's going to move the growth and innovation as well. So I want to talk about the creators themselves and then a little bit about the environment in which people are operating. So right now, in terms of WebVR specifically, we have a lot of materials. We have tools and expertise. A lot of this is found on the web, but there are a lot of folks who don't think of themselves as coders or developers yet, and they really want to access this stuff. They really want to make things. They're not going to go on Stack Overflow. They don't know it exists. They don't know what GitHub is, and they couldn't navigate their way around if they tried. We'll help them try later, but it's a barrier to entry right now. And then, sort of knowing the people that you can go to ask questions. So this is actually a picture of a class that we have been doing in Boston, sort of like an intermediate A-frame class where we're taking folks who don't know JavaScript, trying to bring them to a point where they can get more out of A-frame, and then not go off the cliff into all the JavaScript development quite yet, but we'll get them there. And then some of the other tools that we have. So WebVR, you can make WebVR right now with A-frame. Look at aframe.io if you don't know about it. And what we do is, in terms of the tools, this is the A-frame inspector, so you can be moving things around in 3D. And then we use Glitch, which is really a handy way for people to be able to code and see their creations right away. So we use this quite a bit, and we've been learning a lot about how to teach with Glitch. But using Glitch means that there are fewer barriers to entry for people because you don't need to know how to run a server. You don't need to get other cloud hosting kind of stuff. And it persists your projects, and you can share them so you can get feedback. I'm going to come back to this a little bit later on, but this is a little bit about what we have in the ecosystem for this right now, in addition to the other things like polyfills and more technical stuff. Safety and comfort. So this past year, what I noticed in the Boston community was that we didn't have as many women attending events and creating as we thought were interested in making VR. So I actually founded a grassroots group called Women in the Next Realities. It's sort of an ancillary group to Boston VR, but focused on providing the kinds of environments where you can come in, you can demo, you can get guidance, you can get feedback. There are a lot of women who have projects that they're working on, but they're feeling like they're not perfect yet, and so they don't want to show them. They don't think they're ready for prime time. So a lot of what we're doing is saying, just get out there. This is how you get feedback. If you go see other demos, they've got other problems with them, but that's how they get better. So just encouraging people to do more with that. There's also some, in terms of safety, have you heard about the ponytail problem with the headsets? There's no room for, if you have a ponytail, to put the headset on and have it be comfortable. There's also something called the the how embarrassing problem. So there are a lot of girls and women who, when you put on a headset and you can't see around, you don't know who else is watching you, and people think it's embarrassing to be seen doing these things and having physical interactions with a virtual world, because also somebody might be filming them with a phone or something like that. So you have to have an environment of trust. But if you don't get in there and try and consume VR experiences, how are you ever going to make them? So again, this is another barrier to entry that we're working to diminish. This is sort of a how you move along. This is a student that we had who was taking a prototype of hers, and she's just starting to be like, okay, I'm getting into this now. I feel comfortable, I feel safe enough. And then you get into more full embodiment. But again, these are in situations where people feel like they can really take advantage of the affordances of VR. We recently did a mini hack for the Mozilla WebVR Experience Challenge, looking to bring more people into it. We actually found that it was less of a mini hack and more of a class, it turned out, because a lot of people didn't know the first thing about A-Frame or Sketchfab or how to get assets into a scene. But we had, Melissa came to us, there was another event at the venue that day. It was actually about ARKit, and she went to that, wasn't feeling quite comfortable with it, and left. Came down the hall, heard that we were doing this other event, and said, I know about the web a little bit, I think I'll sit down and do this. So after 2.5 hours, she sat down, she had her own WebVR scene. She was, tweeting about it, talking, really feeling part of a community, both A-Frame, she got responses from the makers of Glitch. Suddenly she was completely embraced by this community and has a sense of belonging, not just in the space where she was, but also in this greater web community. Esteem, this confidence building, this sense of achievement and respect. This is another group that we partner with in Boston called Resilient Coders. And these are folks who maybe traditionally haven't been well represented in developer circles and have had a lot of challenges in their lives. And all of these folks, this was taken at their demo day. They are all now full stack developers, web developers. They have community hours for the city of Boston where people can come in and learn how to code in general, but then they also have boot camps. So this is the cohort that had just gone through this boot camp. And 3 of the people in this picture now are A-Frame WebVR developers because they had that opportunity. And they're getting recognized for their work. And then in terms of growth and innovation, this is Amanda, who was on the WebVR winning team for the MIT virtually reality hackathon in October. And they designed an A-frame-based WebVR experience that helps refugee children learn the language of sort of their everyday belongings in the target language for where they're going to be living. It's a mobile experience. You just pull it up on the phone, drop it into a headset, and the child's immersed and able to learn the target language. So that was the winner of the WebVR prize. And she's demoing this at a women-led demo event as part of the Women in the Next Realities. And that's one I love because this is Maria Christina, and she was in that group picture before with Resilient Coders. For her capstone project, she worked with a group headsets that we had left 6 months before with this group for another cohort in the boot camp where we had taught A-Frame. And she, had inherited this within the group, and she used it to develop an A-Frame-based Alexa retail experience. And she also designed it for a Samsung Gear VR. She just her enthusiasm just will blow you away. Right? But she had a story to tell. She had a project she wanted to do. She was just very early in her journey of becoming a maker. So this is a little aspirational. Code literacy is going to be so important and more from the educational perspective, students are learning about this. But as we talked about yesterday, you don't want the humans to serve the products. We want the tech to be serving the humans. But WebVR is inherently interdisciplinary, and this is where I want to come to the next educational concept. Have you heard of makerspaces? Yeah. Anybody else? Yeah. Okay. So this is a well-designed makerspace gives you the access to the materials, tools, and the expertise. And it can embed some of these other principles so that people feel like they're welcome in the space. So this is what we are, as a team, we're creating or trying to contribute to creating for WebVR, for WebAR. So we have this code-based kind of stuff, but we also need more low-code or no-code options for creation because people are working on their phones. They don't always have access to a desktop, computer, laptop, and they don't always have access to coding tools. And they don't always want it. So one of the things we did last year, when Google came out with the blocks, we were very excited about it. And so we created a third-party viewer where you can pull in a poly model and view it, customize the environment, and then you can share that with friends. So just via text message, just like any other web link. We do this all the time with people. And you can go to that site right today and see it. Hold on, let me give this quick little video of how this works. So this is on Poly. So we're just selecting a remixable model on Google, and then you can just take the link, just the basic web link, put it into Vblock, and then it will enter there, and you can have swipe controls, different adjustments that you can make just through the interface there. And then we have a menu where you can turn on smoothing or shadows or some of the other things you might want to do. And we've incorporated the environment component for A-frames so that you can create a scene very quickly and easily. And then we have different ways to move around. You can use orbit controls just to swipe around it, or you can go into an exploration mode where you can move around the environment, and then you can put it into the cardboard mode. But being a progressive web app, and since we really enjoy what we do, and we really enjoy AR, sorry. Oh, hold on, went too far. This is the one I want. Vblock also has an AR.js piece to it, so it's all embedded in the same app. And if you have Android 5 Lollipop or higher, or iOS 11, you can use the camera and put that same Google Poly model right into your own environment using a fiduciary marker like Hero. This is my favorite part, though. The cat's like, it's really there. Yeah. So I have hero markers. If you want to try this later on today with your phones, you can just grab one. You can have it. So what we found is with Vblock is that, well, first of all, you could bind this to any web platform and use it as a viewer. But it's a great way for people to get onboarded into VR and AR, because it's so easy to do it. So a lot of kids, they can just do it by themselves. You don't need to worry about coding, but you can really start to understand what can you do, what's exciting about it, and you're actually in control. So a couple of other low-code tools. This is something sort of hot off the presses. Going into a 3D model in a scene and taking a picture of that, an equirectangular picture, just with the button, and then saving it to your camera roll on your phone. And then we have a way to load it back up with a basic A-frame scene, and you just pull it up, get it from your photo library, and choose that picture, and then boom, you've got your equi. We didn't have to code anything. So easy. But these are the kinds of tools that makers need and that they want, and it's how they're going to really, it's going to really shorten the time that it takes for people to create a lot more experiments and innovation. We have a couple of other kinds of tools. I said we work in CSS, HTML. So these are some things that we've made for people that we've worked with, and artists that we've worked with. It's just using the browser. These are all filters that are just within the browser. You don't need a separate app. You can do a lot to create just within the browser. Are you familiar with shaders? Some of you? A few? This is something that actually gets people really excited to create. Oh, sorry. I don't really want the, the music at the moment. But when you see this, it's all done at the graphics processing level. It looks real. It looks, it's beautiful. It's shiny. But it makes people really inspired to want to code more because they say, wow, this is all procedurally generated. This isn't a video. This is just your graphics card doing this. And that keeps the assets, can keep the assets low in your A-frame scenes or in your other WebVR scenes. So, oops. All right, well, I'll just let that one play. This is actually a shader that we made for a games contest that we did. The shader was actually the most fun part of it. We kind of didn't have enough time to finish off the game part, but we were like, this shader's amazing. All right, so why is this important, all these low-code tools? Because the future is going to be assuming that people have these skills, right? The students coming up are going to have these STEM skills, that they're going to have technical skills, computational thinking. This is all going to embed a lot of this. The STEM Learning and Research Center has done a lot of research on this, but it's where the K-12 education community is going in terms of how they're preparing students. So they will be code literate and they will be learning code, but they're also going to be looking for tools that enable them to make stuff much faster, and we can. And our future workforce is more diverse. So this is focusing obviously on just the US, but when you look at this, it's a really different future than what we had in terms of software development and in the past. So we really want to have a well-designed makerspace that allows all of these people to come in, make stuff, be creators. Everyone has a story they want to tell. People have become coders because they're inspired to make. And the web is the world's 3D makerspace. So, let's build. Make anything. And it's already here. And there won't be one single group that defines it, one company, et cetera. So that's why we want individuals to feel really empowered to create these things. I don't have an allegiance to one company or another. We're looking at the best of what everybody's putting out there and saying, how do we bring this together and help people achieve their goals? And WebVR and WebAR can do that. So that's what I have for you today. Thank you so much.